The year is 1926. A team of British and American archaeologists are on the hunt for the ancient lost Egyptian city of Hamunaptra. What they find is a cursed place that's home to the mummified corpse of the high priest Imhotep, who was accidentally brought back to life by the magic of the Book of the Dead. Powerful and vengeful, Imhotep hunts down the ones he needs to become whole again and plans to reanimate his lost love in one of the best remakes of all time, 1999's The Mummy. I'm Connor Eyzaguirre.
I'm Benny Gabor.
No, I'm joking. This is Filmgazm. Happy Wednesday, listeners. Welcome to episode 119 of the Filmgazm podcast. I'm joined today by co-host Josh Allred, who's here to aid me in unraveling The Mummy, which has been one of my top 10 favorite movies since I was a kid. I could not be more excited to be doing this movie today.
Yeah, don't you mean unwrap?
Unwrap, yeah. I'm unwrapping The Mummy here. And I've seen all three versions of this from Universal, so this is, in my opinion, the best one. But, we'll get into that. There's no rewind this week, so let's jump right in. Josh, what's your history with The Mummy?
Well, again, like most things, anything from the mid to late 90s, you can probably guarantee I sat my ass in a theater and I watched it. It is very much the case with The Mummy. I was 16 when it came out, so like prime time, big stuff. I know in my review I brought up that I had already had some previous experience with Fraser from Encino Man and Airheads, and like I told you in a conversation we had the other night, this is my third favorite Brendan Fraser movie. So yeah, I was really excited about it, and it's actually, other than maybe like Jurassic Park, it was one of the first movies I can remember I kind of paid attention to the construction of it. I was watching all of these little features about how they did the special effects, and kind of like at the time how groundbreaking they were and how ambitious they were. And as I watched it just a little while ago again. Some of the effects are a little dated. However, some of them still do hold up. Like a lot of the big sand effects, those are still awesome. So yeah, this movie definitely took a big swing and set itself apart from its predecessor, which I don't think you could have made the Karloff version of The Mummy and had it be successful. That movie was of another time, and this is definitely like saying this movie is The Mummy in name only.
Yeah, very much. I think that, had the idea of a dark universe come to Universal in the 90s, this film easily could have jump-started a whole thing. I mean, they had, Gary Oldman's Dracula, they had De Niro's Frankenstein. They had all the pieces there, and it just it was just too, the time hadn't caught up with them yet. But it would have been neat to see kind of a shared universe there with this Mummy movie. Would have been cool.
I mean, maybe. If you really think about it, the Benicio del Toro, Anthony Hopkins Wolfman would have. I think that was kind of like the pinnacle of it, with like these movies kind of progressing the remakes and whatnot. Out of those four, I would probably say like my ranking of them would probably be Dracula, The Mummy, Frankenstein, and then Wolfman. I did not really care for the Wolfman. Something about the casting, like Benicio del Toro does not need to be playing an English aristocrat in like 19th century England getting bitten by a werewolf. Like, it just doesn't need to happen. It was bad on all fronts. The effects, the makeup effects on it, fantastic.
Yeah,
I remember it made the cover of Fangoria. So like, you know they were doing something good. If Fangoria was like, yeah, this is nice.
Well, that's
Movie
Rick. Yeah, that's Rick Baker. That's the king of werewolf effects. I mean, of course, he's going to be the standout of that film. But for me, that movie, like, it was the reveal that Anthony Hopkins was also a werewolf, and like they had their werewolf fight. I thought that was so stupid.
It could have been handled better. Could have been handled better. Even if you wanted to put that little twist in there, it just could have been handled better. And again, I think if you go for it like the Mummy did and just say, yeah, it's the Mummy, but it's not your grandpa's mummy, and just go from there and have some fun with it, then yeah. Or do what they did in the case of Coppola's Dracula, and really just let the director have his vision, because that movie is otherworldly at times, and just how like beautiful it is. So, you know, you have both extremes in those cases with Dracula and the Mummy.
No, the only one I have of that group I haven't seen yet is Frankenstein, so I can't really talk about that one. But
I'm not the biggest fan of it. I think Kenneth Branagh, like, didn't he direct it and star in it? Yeah. De Niro, not that bad as the monster. I will, if you want to see like a totally unique take on the Frankenstein story, watch Depraved. It's by oh my god, Larry Fessenden, and he did a whole bunch of his like own take on the Universal monster movies. He's got his own creature from the Black Lagoon movie. He's got his own vampire movie. He's got his own Frankenstein movie, and because it's a low budget, like you can kind of just but like from a genuine like filmmaker's perspective, what he does with his own versions of those stories is really impressive. So I encourage you to check him out. I think Depraved might be on Shudder. It's out there somewhere. But yeah, Larry Fessenden is an interesting guy to check out. I don't know if I've mentioned this to you before, but he does this like podcast that functions kind of like the old radio talkie shows or whatever. It's called Tales from Beyond the Pale. Amazing stuff. Amazing stuff. Just check it out.
Hell yeah. Love shouting out, you know, what cool people they're doing. The Mummy. I've been a fan of this movie for about as long as I can remember. When this came out, I was 4. And yeah. And my mom and dad went to see it, and they were, you know, my mom and dad are diehard horror buffs, so they were really looking forward to this. And they were kind of bummed out that it was more of an action fantasy kind of thing. They were hoping for a hardcore horror movie. So they just kind of forgot about it. And then it came out on tape, and they bought it, and I found it, and I fell in love with it. And I've just been watching it ever since. And I credit it with kind of introducing me gradually to horror. That The Mummy, Beetlejuice, and Ghostbusters are 3 movies I credit with kind of introducing me to horror in a light way. And yeah, this movie is just so special to me. I can't explain it. It's just something about this movie clicked with me, and I absolutely adore it.
Yeah, no, that's one of the great things I find about movies, that you don't really know why you love something. You just know that it was this moment of serendipity where just like everything comes together and it's at the right time. I mean, I just picked up the Arrow release of Tremors, and that was a movie that I still remember the moment when I was at the video store and I saw the box, and I looked at my mom. I was like, Mom, I need to see this. And she looked at it and she was like, oh, what? No. And then she turned the back and she's like, oh, Kevin Bacon's in this. Yeah, we can watch this. My mom only wanted to see Bacon, but I got monsters. That's all I care about.
That's awesome. That's great. I love that. My parents would they would go to Blockbuster and just start at alphabetically in the horror aisle and just rent them, and they would go through the whole wall. And yeah, it's kind of cool. My dad still does it. My mom not so much anymore, but my dad is still just constantly seeking out weird shit. And I am, you know, carrying on the family business in a way.
Good. Somebody's got to.
Yes. So The Mummy is, of course, the first remake of the 1932 Universal Monsters classic, starring Boris Karloff as Imhotep. It's not bad, but I would say it's not as engaging as some of the other 30s classics of the original Universal lineup. My personal favorite is The Wolfman. I think Dracula has not aged particularly well, in my opinion. And I still got to see Creature. What is your take on the classics there?
Yeah, I mean, actually, okay. So I'll you probably know the whole story behind how they did the Spanish language Dracula when they were shooting the original Bela Lugosi Dracula. So they were recycling the same sets at the time that they were shooting Dracula, and the actor was like looked nothing like Bela Lugosi, like not even like in any remote way. So like the whole time you only see him, he's got his arm over his face the whole time when he's doing. It's so ridiculous. It's so melodramatic, but was kind of how they did it. And as far as my personal ranking of them, probably have to go Frankenstein, Wolfman, Creature from the Black Lagoon. Mummy is probably somewhere in there. It's really like very moody and kind of just dark and creepy, and it's never out and out going for scares.
Yeah.
Frankenstein, I did my senior in high school. I did my senior research project on Frankenstein, Mary Shelley, and all of that. So I have like the 75th anniversary DVD of it. It's definitely one of my favorites, and it's I mean, Bride of Frankenstein is better than Frankenstein in a few ways. It's just really interesting to see the evolution of film from those movies to now, and kind of like, because I mean they functioned like stage, so you didn't get to see like a fully immersed world, but what they were able to do is pretty fascinating. I still love them.
Yeah, they're the originals. You know, they laid the groundwork for so much that came after, and they, practically they invented the monster movie in America. And yeah, Frankenstein still holds up. That movie's amazing. The Mummy, though, I think it's a little dull. I think it opens brilliantly. I think, Karloff in the coffin just slowly opening his eyes is a true fright, I think, like still. But it never really goes there again. And it ends up becoming more of a melodramatic love story, which yeah, this new one does that too, but also focuses on the evil side of this whole story, which is good. I just think it's a good reimagining. It didn't straight up remake, but it took the name and it created something new around it. And I respect that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There's a really good balance between, the action, the comedy that kind of cuts the tension, and the horror, which is there for, the fans, people that came to see a mummy movie like that. I want to see those creepy things. I want to see mummified corpses walking around and coming after you. And, I want to see guys get the life sucked out of them and turned into husks. Like, I want to see all of that good stuff. I have really like no big complaints with this movie. Like every time I watch it, I enjoy it. I put kids through it tonight, and not that much joy was had during the scary parts. But by the end of it, when Rick was fighting off the my son was jumping up and down. Yeah. I was like, yeah, he's kicking some mummy butt, isn't he? And my son's, oh yeah. So he definitely got invested by the end.
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah, keep this legacy alive. When I was a kid, there were scenes in this I couldn't watch at night. There's some creepy moments in this movie. Like it never really goes like too far over the threshold, because I don't think Universal would let Stephen Sommers go as far as he wanted to go. But what they do get away with is pretty dark, and I love it. Like the scene where, for me, it's the scene when Imhotep takes out the Egyptologist and the crowd gathers around him and he just turns to the camera, opens his mouth super wide, and bugs fly out. That scared the absolute shit out of me when I was a kid. I couldn't watch that part. Day or night, I had my eyes closed.
Yeah, I think one of my creepy Imhotep moments is when he like turns around, he's almost fully formed, and he turns around and you see the scarab crawling through his cheek, and he just crunches on it, and you're just like, oh. But I also had previous experience with that actor Arnold Vosloo as Darkman, so that was another spot I knew him from, and I was like, oh shit, it's Darkman! Like, yeah, it's gonna be awesome. And him in those other Darkman movies is pretty cool. I mean, those movies are fucking weird on their own. So
yeah,
it blows me away that Liam Neeson was the first one, though. Liam Neeson was the first Darkman. It's just like, cool, all right.
Yeah, Darkman's a bitchin' film. I haven't seen the sequels yet, but I am a big fan of the original one. And I like Arnold Vosloo a lot. He's a guy I really just don't see as much as I'd want to. I mean, I've seen him. I liked him in Blood Diamond, but that's kind of it, really. Like The Mummy and Blood Diamond are kind of it for what I've seen him in. He doesn't do that much, at least not in America. I'd like to see him more. He's a great character actor. So prior to directing The Mummy, Stephen Sommers' biggest claim to fame was the 1994 live-action Jungle Book adaptation starring Jason Scott Lee. He would later helm 2001's The Mummy Returns, 2004's Van Helsing, and 2009's G.I. Joe: The Rise of Cobra, before popping up again to direct 2013's Odd Thomas, and he hasn't done anything since. He's got a weird relationship with Hollywood.
Yeah, I didn't even know that he had directed that Van Helsing movie. I think I've heard you talk about it before. I cannot stand that movie. It's like, to me, it's like such an affront to me as a horror fan. I'm just like, no. Hugh Jackman is lovely, luscious locks. Get the fuck out of here.
Van Helsing came out when I was 9, and I loved it so much. And because it's such a cool, I like the idea of like, what? Dracula and Frankenstein and the Wolfman and what? Oh, Mr. Hyde. Oh my God, that's so cool. And I loved Hugh Jackman because I was a huge X-Men fan. So this was, for me, it was very much like, this is cool. And I didn't have a lot of horror, I didn't have any horror cred to kind of be affronted by. And that movie just kind of, I've grown up with it, and it holds a special place in my heart, but I totally get why horror fans hate it. I totally get it.
Hey man, I'm not going to fault you for your guilty pleasures. I have plenty of fucking skeletons in my closet. You like what you like. It's all good.
But Stephen Sommers definitely has a tone, and it's campy as hell and going as far, like close to the line, but never going over it. And I think that people were kind of tired of getting teased by Stephen Sommers. I think like Van Helsing especially, I know people really were expecting like a horror extravaganza with that movie, and it ended up being a campy kind of Count Chocula movie. And that's a shame, but I do think it hurt him bad in Hollywood, because they had Van Helsing, like that was going to be huge. They had a ride planned. They had 3 sequels planned. Like that was going to be huge for Universal. And because it tanked, I think that just put, the final nail in Stephen Sommers' coffin. And then when he tried to do G.I. Joe, they were like, no, we warned you, get the hell out of here. So I think he's done.
More punk Van Helsing for you.
But weirdly, he has directed 3 of my favorite movies. The Mummy, The Mummy Returns, and Van Helsing. I can't walk away from any of those movies.
I can't quit.
I can't. It's it's a bad pizza you need to finish. Like, I know it's bad. I know nobody else likes it, but I ordered it and I'm going to see this through.
So Stephen Sommers is your director moped?
Yeah.
Fair enough. We're going to have to start asking people that question. Who is your filmmaking moped? Seriously.
Yeah.
Email Connor, filmgazm@gmail.com, and tell us who your director or even your movie moped is. Let us know.
Who's yours?
God, probably Lloyd Kaufman, but like I'm so proud of that I can never. It's funny, like I was talking to my buddy Ty and telling him that, you know, I'm gonna be on a lot more often now, and I was like, is there anything you want me to do? He's like, you need to do more trauma. I was like, don't worry, I already got called out for that, so people know what to expect from me already, so let's do it.
Hell yeah, man. Bring your favorites. Yeah, let's do this. Summers. Yeah, I got nothing, I got nothing to back up my claim. It's just I grew up with these movies and I love them. That's all I got.
Yeah, man. I think that shows the power of how much of an impression art can make on a person at a given moment.
Yeah.
I'm weird monster movies, zombie flicks, like I can never get tired of those things. Like, give me a big dumb monster movie or some shambling dead things, demons, whatever, and I'm in. Like, you don't even have to say anything else. So I mean, and growing up as a kid in the era of amazing VHS box art, I will forever be a sucker for a poster and an image and a snappy log line. Just give me that and I'm in. I don't care. Like, you could have the most terrible movie ever and I will still watch it because you've got fancy art on the box. You've hooked me. Let's go. Because at that point it becomes like a dare. It's like it's sitting there telling you, like, I dare you. Rent me. Watch me. Will you be pleased or will you regret it? You won't know until you pick me up. So
yeah, that's fantastic. That pretty much describes like 90% of the films we've talked about in this podcast. It's like most of them are just, am I going to suck or am I going to rock? You won't know. Flip the coin. I feel like we've been more pleased than upset with what we've picked out. I think there's only been like a handful of really bad movies we've covered. I mean, yeah, and who knows what we'll get in the future. Let's talk Brendan Fraser. So he was cast as adventurer Rick O'Connell. He would reprise the role in the film's 2 sequels, as this was really the role that kind of made him a big Hollywood star. Prior to this, his most well-known films were Encino Man, Airheads, Gods and Monsters, and George of the Jungle. And of those, I've only seen George of the Jungle.
Shame on you.
I know.
Shame on you.
I almost didn't admit it.
You need to watch Encino Man. That is like pure 90s cheese. Like, definitely one of those movies that was straight up like, all right, we're going to make a teen comedy, ugly duckling kind of movie. What's the catch? Fucking just throwing darts at the fucking board and it hits caveman and you're like, let's do it. Perfect. Like, it on paper, that should not make sense and it should not be a good movie. Because if you try to think about it, that whole movie falls apart. Because there's no fucking way a human being is going to survive thousands of years in a block of ice and then be revived by a fucking space heater in some fucking dumbass's shed. End of story. However, don't think about it. Don't think about it. Just have fun. And it works. It's fucking great. I love that movie so much. One of the reasons why I was so lucky to have, a person in my life such as Jamie, she had it. And I was going through her DVDs one day and I saw it and I was like, okay, we can be friends. She's like, what? You love Encino Man? She's like, oh yeah. And she had son-in-law, so it's like, okay, cool. But yeah, Encino Man is perfect. Like, it has all the trappings of every 80s movie ever. They have montages. They have the dance at the end. Like, just everything. It just hits all those notes. And it's great. Not to mention, check it out. So Brendan Fraser's in The Mummy. the guy who plays the caretaker of the museum, the library,
Mhm.
where Evelyn works.
Yeah.
He is one of the convenience store workers in Encino Man.
Ha!
So anytime he popped up, I always heard in my head, "Don't waste the juice." That's one of his lines in the movie. It's just perfect. It's fucking perfect. So there you go. All the way from Encino Man. These two coming in together.
I love that. I love that so much. Oh yeah, I'll definitely watch Encino Man at some point. And Gods and Monsters has been on my list for years. I'm a big Ian McKellen fan. I've always wanted to see that.
You ever see Blast from the Past?
Yes, I have seen Blast from the Past.
Enjoyed that. I enjoyed that.
That's pretty good. Fraser followed The Mummy with films such as Monkey Bone, Dudley Do-Right, Blast from the Past, Bedazzled, Looney Tunes Back in Action, Crash, and Journey to the Center of the Earth, among others. So he was big in the early 2000s. He was getting all sorts of really meaty roles. And I always liked him. I always liked Fraser. I always thought he was really likable.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and he has, and I think I made a remark about it. Like he's able to have like a physical presence, so he can be like this big tough dude, but he also has the timing of a comedian, and he has that way of being like super vulnerable, but like projecting confidence.
Yeah.
He does that in Airheads, like that when he plays Chaz, he's like, this guy fucking knows what he wants to do, but then when he has the keys, he's like, oh shit, what am I gonna do? Well, I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing, and he just plays it so well. So yeah, he was. I still can't believe, because I was looking through the Wikipedia page on this movie, and like Tom Cruise was actually offered this role, and I was like, fuck no. We found out that was a bad choice 20 years later when they put him in the remake. But yeah, like just no way. I couldn't see anybody else doing this.
Yeah, like I thought Roger Ebert was spot on when he called him like a poor man's Indiana Jones or something.
Low
like
rent.
That. Low rent Indiana Jones. Yeah, it's fucking perfect. That's exactly what it's almost the same costume.
Yeah. I mean, all he needed was the hat and the whip.
Yeah.
He's got the jokes.
In the cartoon series they did on the Mummy, and because it was for kids, they took away Rick O'Connell's gun and they actually did give him a whip.
Oh, fuck me. I haven't seen anything past the third one. I couldn't believe they made a Scorpion King movie, although I will say one of the best things to come out of this whole series of Mummy movies was we got Dwayne Johnson as an actor, and not only that, he was like deathly ill when he came to shoot scenes, but literally like got chills, covered under a blanket, so sick. Dwayne, we need you on set. Let's do it. And he just went out there and killed it. So like, who says wrestlers aren't good actors? You're fucking high.
Yeah, that is fantastic. I am very glad we got Dwayne Johnson. It's and I like it. I think it goes back to Stephen Sommers. I really enjoy the Scorpion King movie too.
Maybe I'll have to give him a chance.
It's stupid as hell. It makes no sense, but it's fun. And that's all I want sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, the worst crime a movie can commit is to be boring.
I'm straight. Oh, one of my favorite lines in a Brendan Fraser movie is from Looney Tunes Back in Action. He playing a stuntman, and he's talking to Bugs Bunny, and he's like, "You ever see those Mummy movies? I'm in those more than Brendan Fraser is." I love that to death.
That's you gotta love that somebody can have fun like that, poking fun at them.
True. That's why I was so bummed out when he had just a triage of bad shit happen to him. He had a career decline brought on by a bitter divorce and an alleged sexual assault by the president of the Hollywood Foreign Press. And because of that, Fraser fell into a depression that caused him to disappear from the limelight. He stopped getting big roles and he just kind of disappeared for a while. And he's been getting some steady TV work, and these days he can be seen on the DC HBO Max series Doom Patrol as Robot Man. So I'm glad he's back somewhat. I really hope he has a career resurgence, and I wish him all the luck.
Yeah, for real. Come back, Brendan Fraser. We miss you.
Yeah. I think now would be the perfect time for that fourth Mummy movie.
Old Man Rick versus the Mummy.
I'll buy tickets to that. Oscar winner Rachel Weisz had her big break as Evelyn Evie Carnahan. Weisz would go on to win an Oscar for her performance in 2005's The Constant Gardener, which personally I don't think she should have won. And she would be nominated for her performance in 2018's The Favorite. She would return for the 2001 sequel, but not the 2008 sequel, causing producers to recast her character with Maria Bello, which did not make fans happy. And it really is just the worst part of that movie, which is really saying something. Just kill her off and make the story about Rick getting over it. You got a great story there.
Yeah. I mean, for me, the highlight of, and it's going to sound very crass, but I'm also being quite complimentary, is Rachel Weisz's boobs in this movie. Whoa. Great. Wow. I think that was something else that really put quite an impression upon me at 16 years old. Because, yeah.
I didn't really see it in this movie, but I definitely saw it in The Mummy Returns.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think they did a really good job of kind of casting her in this big nerdy mold, so that when she does finally she's a very, very attractive woman, and was very subtle at the beginning, but like by the time the movie goes to the end, you're just like, wow, she's smoking. Woof. Whoa, I would come back from the dead for her.
Yeah, I get it, man. I think she's really cool, really talented, brings a lot of gravitas to this film. And she's I think she's a fairly underrated actress. Despite having an Oscar win, I do feel like when people are talking about, really notable actresses working today, I feel like her name doesn't come up, but it should. Some of her other films include Enemy at the Gates, About a Boy, Constantine, The Fountain, The Lovely Bones, Oz the Great and Powerful, The Lobster, and she's set to appear in Black Widow as Melina Vostokov, whoever that is. So we'll see. But yeah, personally, I thought her 2005 Oscar for The Constant Gardener was not deserved. I didn't think that movie was really that great. I didn't think she was that standout. I didn't really think she stood out in it. I thought that Oscar should have gone to Michelle Williams, but that is for a different podcast.
You and Austin can fight about that.
Yep.
Fight for her.
Yep. I know I'm not getting in any Oscar conversation here.
It's all right. You can tease people. You can tease it here and then say, but if you tune into Oscar Sunday, you can hear all this kind of information and much more.
Exactly. We just did 2 hours and 10 minutes on Chinatown. That's the real shit right there. We're kicking ass over there.
Holy fuck. I have yet, I'm going to sound like a bad friend, but I have yet to listen to a single Oscar Sunday episode. And I feel like I do, just because I know like when I first got introduced to you guys, I want to say I like threw my elbow down on Austin and with my opinions, and it was actually for what ended up coming out of it. I think it was a pretty good conversation he and I ended up having about the Oscars and our feelings on them as different as they are, because I kind of found myself going like, you know what, I had to take my own advice. It's like, look, it doesn't have to be for you. These guys enjoy this kind of stuff. So, I can't hate on them for liking it. That's stupid because, I got shit on for my taste in movies I still do, but it's different when it's directed maliciously. And then when it's like, oh shit, you picked this movie, didn't you, Josh? Yeah, I did. So That I wear like a badge of honor. Those kind of moments.
Well, I don't fault you for not checking out Oscar Sunday. It's not your bag. I get it. Caleb's the same way. He hates the Oscars too. I could never do that podcast with either of you guys. So, we have that's a way for us to kind of just discuss that side of films. But it's so cool to be able to really look forward to doing 2 hours on Chinatown and also really look forward to doing The Mummy. To have both of those mindsets is the fucking best. So I celebrate that. So I'm just lucky to be here.
Yeah, hey, that makes two of us.
Let's talk about John Hannah. He's fucking hilarious, and I don't know why he's not in everything. He's Scottish. I always thought he was Welsh. He plays Jonathan, Evie's brother. He would reprise his character in both sequels, making him and Brendan Fraser the only two actors to be in all three movies. Some of his other notable films include Four Weddings and a Funeral, Sliding Doors, and The Hurricane. And he also played the recurring roles of Batiatus on Spartacus and Holden Radcliffe on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. What do you think of Jonathan?
Oh, no. I mean, his character was great. I felt like he was a necessary foil to the straight and narrow of Evelyn. You kind of have to have somebody who is kind of like the wild card in the whole thing. He's definitely that, because I mean, if you think about it, without him taking the key from Rick, none of this stuff even gets close to happening. So he's definitely and that's another thing. Like, I don't feel like there's anything that's really like disposable in this movie in terms of how it's set up, and all the characters definitely play their parts. So yeah, kudos to Stephen Sommers for making good use of everybody involved.
Yeah, he definitely had a great cast in mind. He casted this really well. I love the relationship between Jonathan and Evie, that she's the straight-laced responsible one and he's the fuck up, and yet she's the one who resurrects the mummy. It's great. Yeah, I think he's my favorite. He's one of the few redeeming qualities of the third movie. I love him, his whole constant quest for riches. The bit at the end of the second one, he's like trying to get the diamond, and Rick's like, "It's not worth your life," and he's like, "Yes, it is," just screaming, trying to grab the giant diamond. I laugh my ass off every time. South African actor Arnold Vosloo plays the evil, powerful Imhotep. He would reappear in the first sequel. He also played the role of Darkman in the two Darkman sequels. Has also appeared in such films as Blood Diamond, G.I. Joe: The Rise of Cobra, G.I. Joe: Retaliation, and he's had recurring roles in TV shows such as Cape Town, Bosch, and Jack Ryan. And because I grew up with the first two Mummies and I've seen them so many times, it feels weird for me to see Arnold Vosloo speak English.
Strange, isn't it strange?
Yeah, it's like if he's not speaking ancient Egyptian, something in my head's like, this isn't right.
It's not the same guy. It's not the same guy.
Oh, it's fucking great. Yeah, I wonder why. Like, how did his relationship with Stephen Sommers start? Like, I feel like because he's been kind of loyal to him. He put him in the G.I. Joe movie. So I wonder, like, because Arnold Vosloo didn't really have a lot of American credits prior to The Mummy. I wonder if Stephen Sommers, is he South African, or did he just does he just know that?
No, I think it had something to do about when he was coming in to like audition for it, I think, or something like that. Like they just had a good relationship. Arnold Vosloo talked about how he was a little out of shape before they started shooting, and they said that he was essentially like fasting prior to them actually doing productions, because he was like, we can't have a fat mummy.
I would have fucking loved it if Imhotep had a gut the whole movie. I would have loved that.
That's what he said in his words. He's like, I had a paunch. And it's like, yeah, dude, you got a beer gut. Go, just go ahead and say it, man. It's all good.
Oh my God. I wish that Sommers had just straight up rewritten the character and just let him just let loose. I would have.
Imhotep really let himself go in the afterlife, mourning the loss of his love, Noxuna Moon, and just got hammered all the time. Didn't work out. Stopped doing sit-ups. Generally became a fat mummy.
We thought the scarabs ate him. Turns out over those millennia, he was eating the scarabs. Character actor Kevin J. O'Connor plays the sniveling Benny Gabor, Imhotep's servant. O'Connor has appeared in nearly all of Stephen Sommers' films, playing Igor in Van Helsing and Dr. Mindbender in G.I. Joe, The Rise of Cobra. He's also appeared in such films as Peggy Sue Got Married, There Will Be Blood, The Master, Amistad, Gods and Monsters, Widows, and he played the Yellow Card Man on Hulu's miniseries 11/22/63. So he gets in some big productions. He's got some connections. That's Paul Thomas Anderson. That surprises me.
Well, I mean, I think he's just like one of these he's like really good character actors, and if you can kind of inhabit a character like he does, I mean, case in point, like he really like puts on a show when Imhotep's coming after him, and he just starts going through the different religions. Like, you know, does this one stick? Does this one stick? Chinese? Mm-hmm. No? Fuck. And he starts speaking Hebrew, and it's like, oh, that saved me. And it's like, and then from there, he's just this sniveling little prick to actually like really being an evil little fuck when they go after Burns. And he's like, he gets real close, and he's like, and he thanks you for your eyes and your tongue. And it's like, fuck, dude, you are terrible. So yeah, no, I mean, I'm not surprised that guy's had a good career.
It's pretty awesome. Like seeing, you know, in There Will Be Blood, he goes toe to toe with Daniel Day-Lewis, and that is impressive work to stand, you know, to hold your own against a powerhouse like that. You got to be talented, and this guy's underrated as hell. I love this dude. Like everything I've seen him in, he's really stood out. Especially as Igor in Van Helsing. I really, really love that character.
Excuse me, I keep talking about Van Helsing this whole time. I'm going to have to name this episode Connor Loves Van Helsing.
We're going to do a Van Helsing episode one day, and you're going to be there.
Hey, whatever, man. That's fine. That's fine. As long as I can do that one not sober, so I can just unleash.
Feel free.
In a respectful way.
Maybe I'll get Julie to do that one. Yeah. Igor's just, I love his take because he's basically Benny, but Igor, you know, he betrays Dr. Frankenstein to work for Dracula for money. That's the whole deal. And just seeing him fly off the bridge is always very satisfying. Israeli character actor Oded Fair plays Ardeth Bey, leader of the Magi, and kind of a shitty one, I do think. He would reappear in the first sequel. Fair has also appeared in such films as Deuce Bigalow, Male Gigolo, Resident Evil Extinction, and Resident Evil Retribution. He does a lot of voice work, playing Dr. Fate on Justice League Unlimited, Ra's al Ghul on Young Justice, and Equinox on Batman the Brave and the Bold. He also played Jafar on Once Upon a Time and Admiral Charles Vance on Star Trek Discovery. So he's kind of just been popping up all over the place, and he's one of my favorite parts of this movie. He's such a cool character. But he's such a terrible guy. He's terrible at his job. He has one job and he just lets it happen.
Just watches it unfold.
Yeah.
At least, and I don't have his name, but at least, you know, the fucking caretaker at the library like actually tried to burn the map. Like he was trying to do something. This guy's just sitting up there like, oh, can we go kill him? No, the desert won't kill him. Like, come on, dude. Do you not see who that is? It's Rick O'Connell. Desert ain't killing him. Come on.
The caretaker guy at the library, he never actually gets a name. We never hear his name said in this movie. He's just the guy at the library.
The library guy.
Yeah. But their whole job, like they have been raised since birth, protect the creature, do not let him out. And then when it's at closest it's ever gotten, they just are like, I guess we'll just tell them to leave. That'll do the job. At the very least, steal the key. I mean, for fuck's sake.
You can't just tell Americans to go home. The world is our oyster. Have you learned nothing?
Oh, that's... Yeah, there might be some truth to that.
Hey man, you see how these guys act? They're all gung ho and hard up to go get this treasure. Let's go get, and they're Texans. You know they're Texans. So
Oh, I love that scene on the boat where the one American dude, Henderson, sees the guy on fire approaching Jonathan, and he's just like shooting his gun, like, yeah, it's so stupid.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure if that scene would have lingered a little bit more and he stood up, he would have had a hard on. You know that because all that's people, I've been waiting for this shit.
Oh God.
But then when shit gets real, the tears start flowing.
Oh yeah.
He had his eyes and his tongue ripped out. How do you think he feels? Oh, you're not so tough now, are you?
The whole thing with the Magi, we see in part 2, there are thousands of these guys. There's an army, and their whole lot in life is don't let Imhotep out. Where the hell were the other 100,000 Magi when this happened? Like, the part 2 introduces so many plot holes. It's ridiculous, but I still love it to death. So The Mummy has an IMDb score of 7.0, Rotten Tomatoes score of 61%, which I think is low. Despite receiving mixed reviews, it grossed 418 million worldwide on a budget of 80 million. Huge success. It was nominated for Best Sound at the Oscars. Spawned 2 sequels, an animated spin-off series, 2 rides at Universal Studios, was remade again in 2017, and has amassed a huge cult following. So I'd say this is pretty significant. I've been on the Revenge of the Mummy ride at Universal Orlando, and it's fun. It's great. My favorite roller coaster there.
I won't be able to confirm or deny that because I hate roller coasters. I can't do it. Yep.
That's a surprise. Huh.
Yeah, I know, right?
Man,
puked when I was a kid, and I could never get on another ride.
That's very sad. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well.
You could do the one in Hollywood because that's like a fun house.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
It's like the Mummies. It's like Tomb of the Mummy or something where you walk into like the Mummies. I don't know. There was a DVD extra on the Mummy Returns that showed you the walkthrough. But the ride at Universal Orlando is a roller coaster where you like go up to the tomb and then Imhotep comes back and you have to like escape from him in the roller coaster. And I did that shit like 6 times. it was
I'm down.
So let's get into The Mummy. Some talking points here I'd like to bring up. First up, Jerry Goldsmith's score. I think this is some of his best work, and that is really saying something because that guy has been like he was doing 40 plus years of film scores, including like The Omen, and I fucking love his Mummy score. So cool.
Yeah. The music's I think it does its work, like kind of balancing with the genre shifts in the movie. Like when it's creepy, the music is definitely amplifying that, and kind of seamlessly flows in with the action. That because I mean those 2 elements of the movie kind of like go back and forth throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, for sure. There's elements of his score they're super creepy. He's got adventure down. He really does kind of pop every single part of this film. And yeah, I love that. Another thing, I had no idea that ancient Egyptians were white. Who knew? So cool.
Yeah. I mean, of course, duh. Everybody was white back then. Duh. I don't know who thought that everybody coming from Africa was going to be dark-skinned or whatever, but no. Actually, okay, so to bring up a point about representation, the guy who played the warden, he said that he had to have some element of humor to the role and like kind of like play it up, because if he was gonna play it like serious, and he would have gotten his ass beat by other Middle Eastern people because he was being representative of them. Because at that point you didn't see a lot of Israeli or anybody else from the Middle East in major Hollywood movies, so like he had to he had to kind of treat it as a caricature in a way. And, I mean, the guy's still around, must have done something right. But yeah, no, it's, I try not to let that stop me when I watch a movie like this, but then you're just like, for fuck's sake.
I know.
Like, you guys were in Morocco. There's, I don't want to sound insensitive when I say, but there are brown people in Morocco. I'm sure you could find some and, get somebody to translate and set up a scene and go do that.
Yeah.
It's possible.
As much as I love Arnold Vosloo in these movies, and I don't fault him at all. I mean, he's South African, so he's African.
It counts.
Yeah. Loophole. I would have cast Oded Fair as Imhotep. Like, I thought he would have been, maybe too dark. Maybe like his character would have been like really fucking evil. But I could see him as, a really convincing Imhotep. But, I don't know what they were trying to do here. It's the 90s. Nobody gave a shit back then. Took a long time. I'm talking like 2 years ago for them to finally start paying attention to this stuff. Another thing that really bugs me is nobody really understands the geography of Egypt. They think pyramids are every 2 feet, no matter what city you're in.
Wait, what? They're not?
Yeah, it's fucking stupid. Like in Thebes, pyramids right over there. Giza, pyramids right over there. Cairo, pyramids right over there. The same pyramids, by the way. It's just Egypt.
Yeah.
I know it's nitpicky shit, but I've been thinking about this movie for 20 years.
Egypt is Arabic for pyramid. You didn't know that, did you?
I can see that shit being said in an executive room like right now.
Well, yeah, of course.
Oh, I think it's interesting that this movie got sneaked past a PG-13 rating. I think there's a lot of really graphic shit in this movie that gets away with it simply because you don't see any blood. But also, Patricia Velasquez, her whole costume is body paint. Like, how did they get away with that?
Oof. I'm glad they didn't cut that out. Again, 16-year-old me talking. Okay.
I'm not complaining. I'm just saying, this should be rated R.
I mean, okay, so like you have an understanding for what the MPAA does and kind of their quote unquote notes on films when they get screened by them and like to make changes for their ratings and whatnot. Yeah. And I was unaware of this phrase, but it makes total sense. Is editors and filmmakers in general, like they refer to it as being frame fucked, and essentially meaning that they're bitching about a matter of frames because they're like, if you show this guy getting shot up for 10 seconds, that's too much, but if you do it for 10 seconds, that's okay, which literally means you've got to cut out a couple of frames. Or what you do in the case of very crafty filmmakers who know that part of the game, you put some shit in there that isn't going to fly. And then when they turn that down, you stick in what you really want to do. And then they're like, oh yeah, that's okay. Literally beating them at the game. So yeah, I think there was probably a little bit of that going on because I mean, I was sitting there today and thinking about it. It was like, we should watch this before you have to record tonight. And I was like, do you really want to do that? Wait, there's some fucked up shit in this movie. And I did have to I had to cover my son's eyes a couple of times. My daughter was hiding pretty much the whole movie. But yeah, I mean, there are definitely those moments. I mean, people get their entire life sucked out of them and they're like turned into friggin' like dust, basically. So, but again, a lot of it happens off screen. You don't actually see it happening. You just see the end result. I mean, I think the most frightening bits are like Imhotep coming back to life, and the fact that he's just like a skeleton with bits of beef jerky clinging to him.
Yeah, for me, that's up there. For me, it's the scene where Imhotep is actually mummified, and they just dump the scarabs on him, and you just hear his like hushed screams. that shit haunted me a bit as a kid.
Yeah, totally. I mean, plus if you look at that scene, Like there's all kinds of ill shit going on in the entire frame, you know? So when I was a kid, I would read encyclopedias just for fun because I was a dork and never wanted to interact with anybody in my classes. I just always sat in the back and did that. And I read about mummification. And I remember reading about that bit that Rachel Weisz talks about, where they would scramble your brains and yank them out of your nose. And there's actually that happening in one of his priests in there. You see this dude just like getting up in there in his face and just like, oh, I know what he's doing. Ah. So yeah, no, I mean, there's screams and cries of pain and everything like going on all around him. It's a total torture scene. And I think that was probably like pushing the envelope there.
Yeah.
And again, like you said, he never goes full on. Like you don't see, I think when Imhotep gets his arm cut off and it's just hanging there, there's no blood coming out of it. And you're crossing that line, but you're not like fully crossing it. You're just dipping a toe over. I mean, like, go ahead, tell me, go ahead, it's fine.
Yeah, it's interesting where we kind of put our priorities when it comes to rating. Like you can kill as many people as you like, just as long as there's no blood, and you'll be all right. Like, it's weird.
Different color blood, like you can get away with all of that stuff. Like it's so arbitrary. It makes absolutely no sense to me that just a group of people and different groups of people, not even the same group of people, become the arbiters of what they consider good for us. And actually, okay, so I remember where I heard it. Dr. Rebecca McKendry, she has a podcast, and she does it with another guy named Allred Kane, and they were talking about that, and that's where I heard the Frank fucking bit come in. And they did a whole thing where Dr. McKendry recounted a brief history of like the Hays Code, and then how it went to the MPAA, and pretty much how worthless. So yeah, they've got a really cool podcast called Colors of the Dark, and they talk about any and all manner of obscure horror exploitation movies. So
sweet.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
We
I
brought
used
up the
to
Hays-
yeah, I used to interact with her when she worked at Fangoria.
Oh,
They
cool.
would have little contests, send in emails, and she would be the one emailing back, telling you whether you won or not. So I got a couple of emails back from her winning stuff. It was pretty cool. I won a couple T-shirts. So yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome.
That's pretty cool, man. Oh, I fucking hate the Hays Code with a passion. We've talked about that a lot on Oscar Sunday because we do a lot of older films that were made during that era. So we bring that up as a way to remind audiences, like, yeah, this is why there's no language in this film or nobody dies, because this whole arbitrary bullshit controlled Hollywood for 30 fucking years.
Yeah, or why didn't see black people?
Yeah. Oh. For more on the Hays Code, check out our Oscar Sunday podcast, available every Sunday. We're doing a Hays Code made film this weekend, Gaslight, 1944. So one thing that always bugged me about this film at the beginning of it is how slowly Imhotep and Anck-su-namun killed the pharaoh. Like, there's people right outside. Like, they need to hurry this up. If you're going to murder the most powerful man in the world, you need to be quick about it. I mean, he's got a sword, and they're just, like, stabbing him in, like, the fucking legs. Like, cut his head off and be done with it. You would have gotten out of there.
Well, they were probably thinking, I don't want somebody to say we went too far. But, I mean, clearly there's a lot going on here that, the Egyptian Romeo and Juliet really took it too far.
Mm-hmm. And also, worst bodyguards ever. I mean, you have one job, protect the pharaoh, and they're what, in another room? What the fuck? Ugh.
Well, I mean, equally as bad are Imhotep's fucking Goldman group, just putting their arms up on the door, like, yeah, that'll hold them.
Yeah. I love when the pharaoh just like pushes the door away and then looks at them like, the fuck do you think you're doing?
Oh,
and they
sorry.
Just back away.
So sorry.
Oh, so because of Imhotep's little discretion, murdering the pharaoh and fucking his wife, uh, he gets put on the naughty list and suffers the Hamdai, which is this super curse that somebody made at some point that basically says like you're gonna die painfully and one day possibly come back as a god. Like whose idea was that? I mean, if they knew Imhotep was so dangerous and hated the pharaoh and would totally fuck shit up if he ever came back, why kill him in a way that allows him to come back with superpowers? Just stab him in the back of the head and throw him out back. I mean, I get this symbolism, but you need it for the story, but it doesn't seem like the best decision.
Clearly, somebody was just passing the problem off. Yeah, somebody else is gonna deal with this guy. I don't want to do it.
So you think this was just like a constant ancient game of not my department?
Yeah, pretty much. Or it's just like, what? Him come back? That shit'll never happen. I don't even believe in this stuff. I curse you. You will be eaten by bugs. And if you come back, you will murder us all. Maybe. Probably. I don't know. I'm not going to see it, so whatever.
What happens 2,000 years from now is not my problem. Let my ancestors deal with this shit.
Not my department.
Yeah. Unreal. So when I was a kid, I legit thought that scarab beetles lived in Egypt and would eat my flesh in seconds. I thought these were a real thing, and it took quite a while for me to be convinced that they're not.
No, they're actually quite benign, and actually would rather eat shit more than eat you.
Yeah, but this movie was so convincing. Like as a child, I'm like, oh shit, that was scarier than any mummy.
Well, it's funny you bring up the scarabs because Jamie brought them up and she's like, okay, this is the problem I have. Scarabs aren't these ravenous things that just eat you in minutes. That shit takes time. And I'm like, we're watching a mummy movie. Calm down. And then later on when the scarabs literally like do a quick one on this guy, she's like, yeah, see, that happened fast. I was like, it's a mummy movie. So yeah, well, mummies are real. I'm like, and then Imhotep comes up, like, dead mummy guy standing on his legs. That's what I'm talking. This is the kind of movie. Don't think about it.
No, it's just so frustrating when movies break their own rules. It's like, why bring these concepts up if you're not going to pay attention to it?
Because clearly you're like they're a device, you know, like they're just there for gags.
Yeah,
that's right. Because I mean, I still remember how grossed out I was when I saw the warden having the scarab running under his skin like fucking Jerry under a carpet, under his, you know, just carving his way through his body before he goes and eats his brain. It's just like, what the like, that freaked me out at the time, and now I look at it and it's just so cartoonish.
Yeah. Well, as a kid, you know, well, for me at least, as a kid, I didn't know what was real and what wasn't real. You know, Santa Claus still bring me presents every year. So why wouldn't these flesh-eating beetles be real? Especially ones that could, you know, get into your skin, get into your fucking brain. I mean, Jesus Christ. You know, one more thing to worry about right next to quicksand and anvils.
Exactly.
Another point I want to bring up. So the Magi, we talked about how they really suck at guarding the creature. Maybe they just didn't think anybody would have the balls. But another thing, when Imhotep was buried, the whole point was this guy needs to be forgotten. Do not ever dig this guy up. He will never be released or bad shit will happen. So why is there a map to this place? Like, why hasn't every Magi just memorized the route and they destroyed the map? There's no map. The key should have been destroyed. Like, there should have been no trail to this guy.
None. But also, yeah, like you said, like, why is the map with the key? Why? Why would you do that?
Well, and Rick says he just found it. Like, He didn't steal it from the Magi. It was just lying around at Amenoptera. Like the dude who buried Imhotep was just like, just chucked it over his fucking shoulder when he was done.
Nobody's gonna find this.
God.
Again, not my department. I don't get paid to worry about this stuff.
Who's paying you? The Pharaoh's dead.
I'm getting paid in. Oh shit! Why am I not getting paid? That's another reason why I don't care. You're not paying me to care.
Is it kind of? Do you think it's kind of weird that the same key that opens Imhotep's sarcophagus also opens both of the books? Like, why?
People weren't that creative back then. I don't know. It's like, dude, we just figured out a way that we can lock anything. Really? Yeah, but it only takes one key. Nobody ever thought that was a problem. That might be a bit of an issue. Like, might make it too easy if somebody stole it and wanted to use it for bad things. Who would want that?
I love that. I love the idea that somebody just made the key and everyone just used the key in ancient Egypt.
Well, I mean, clearly Pharaoh was not in possession of any keys because people held the doors closed. So clearly this was a brand new invention. It was super secret. Only the super, like you had to need to know in order to know how to use these things,
Yeah.
Twist it. That's the secret. Just twist it.
And apparently some asshole thought it was one use only because then he just chucked it over his shoulder after he buried Imhotep.
Job done.
Oh God. So yeah, I love the journey, like the build up to meeting Evie and meeting Jonathan and Rick's whole bit with the French Foreign Legion. The setup is brilliant. I love how we're introduced to these characters, especially when the library falls down and the guy just walks in there like, "What the fuck happened?" I love that scene so much.
Just imagine how many takes that took to get it right.
One.
Seriously, just one?
They had one chance because setup would have cost them like 4 days of filming, so they got it right on the first go.
Oh, lucky bastards! Anytime I watch that movie, I never thought about that, but like I was like, fuck me, who would hate to have that job?
I'm amazed they did it. I can't believe they pulled that off.
Because I mean, that's a very that's a domino scheme. Like you have to have everything right. All of the spacing has to be right. Damn.
And Rachel Weisz has to get her cue right at the very end. If she fucks up, it's over. I love how in movies
an Oscar for that.
Yes. This movie should have been up for score, visual effects, production design. Like sound is okay, but not what I would have gone with. But beggars can't be choosers. I love that when in films they show you who the historian is by having them swear in like historical terms, like when he's just like sons of the pharaohs, because people don't do that.
Well, no, only the highly educated person who has devoted their life to knowledge can curse in dead languages and useless expressions that nobody else will get, and then they get frustrated when you don't understand that they're frustrated. Like somebody would have popped up to me and said some shit like that, I'd just be like, what? Who are you? Go back to the library, dude. Nobody gets what you're saying.
I'm studying to be a history professor right now, so when I get that degree, I can suddenly start saying shit like, by the teeth of George Washington, what fuck did you do that? Like,
there you go.
And I won't stop. Because I've earned it.
So you should start thinking about your exclamation when you get your when you're finally done with it and you graduate. You need to think of some crazy, obscure, historical exclamation of accomplishment.
I will check my archives. Let's talk about the attack on the ferry that really doesn't accomplish anything because the Magi are very incompetent. The more I watch this movie, I'm like, these are the worst people to be guarding the most powerful being in existence. But I love the guy that just catches on fire and then like in the time of this movie is just wandering around the boat on fire for a good like 10 minutes. Like that is, he's got to be wearing like 3-4 layers of robe.
I feel like it really like that's where it's like pushing the comedy because you're just like seriously, this guy will not die. Like he just keeps on walking around. What is and that's why there's thousands of these guys, Connor, because they're terrible at shooting and they make easy targets. Because Rick was picking them off like with ease the entire time, and they were trying to get the drop on him. Like one guy had a knife tied to his hand, and he still couldn't kill Rachel Weisz. Like, come on, dude.
He gets kicked into a fire couch by Jonathan by accident, and then just walks around for a while, not even screaming anymore, finds Jonathan again, and then that, dopey American guns him down. I love that. I want a short film of just what that guy was doing between couch and shot to death.
Just wandering around, asking other Magi.
Here's the thing. He is in the middle of the fucking Nile. He's surrounded by water. He could
just jump.
Yeah, he could end that shit right now, but he's just walking around the ship.
Hey, man, I don't want to get eaten by crocodiles.
Fucking hell. I love it. Oh. So on that boat, my favorite part is when the warden guy goes to Rick and is like, what are we going to do? And Rick goes, wait here, I'll get help, and jumps off the boat. And the guy literally just stands there for a few seconds before realizing that motherfucker left me here.
He's not coming back.
He's not coming back. No, it's great. But I love how long it takes him to realize he's not coming back.
Perfect. It's perfect.
So great. There's, of course, that iconic scene where Benny and Rick scream across the Nile banks. I've got all the horses. Well, you're on the wrong side of the river. It's fucking great.
It's perfect. Sums up their characters really succinctly. Like Rick doesn't need all that extra crap. He has everything he needs with him. Like when Evelyn was crying about the map, he's like, I got the map right here. Like,
I'm the map.
Don't need that. I'm the map.
Rick's relationship with Benny is so interesting because Benny tries to kill him so many times, but in the end, Rick still tries to save him. It's interesting, it's a frenemy thing. Benny's his bitch. I don't know, but
Rick is a true hero. True heroes, no matter what, they will try and save somebody.
Yeah, but it's still so satisfying to see Rick just chuck him over the fucking boat with one hand.
Oh yeah. So funny. He earns it. Well, I think because he was paying him back for running away.
Yeah. Running away and shutting the door on him.
Yeah, you
fucking
fucker.
asshole. I love that the Americans who are paying Benny don't even bother helping him. He's audibly screaming for help. Nobody turns their head at all. Oh. So when we get to Hamunaptra, it's a pretty cool effect. The city, hidden by the sun or whatever the hell that was. And they start digging around. The warden finds the scarab wall and he gets greedy. One of them opens. I wonder why the rest of them don't open. Like, do they have to hit sand or something?
Either that or it takes a certain amount of time, like them like touching something else that isn't the wall, because it's, again, they're kind of playing fast and loose with their rules because Jonathan holds one in his hand and, I mean, the only other thing I can say in of that is when he's running after that scarab's been, doing cardio in his brain for God knows how long, you don't know if those scarabs are alive in his bag or not. Because, I mean, you don't see them pop out. So, I mean, they could have just been hanging out in there. At the same time, they've been able to burrow through a human body. So I'm pretty sure a leather bag isn't going to stop them. So whatever. I really liked the scarabs. I mean, I think, treating them like fucking, like walking, like just like eating machines. It definitely adds that fucking creep factor. And I think, sorry, I got a little frog in my throat. I think you definitely get like the setup that those things are going to be, doing some nasty work, and then it ends up paying off with that guy getting run over by him.
It's freaky. They're one of the best horror elements of the movie. They're freaky. There's thousands of them, and it really feels like you can't stop them. Yeah, hordes are scary, regardless of what they are. And these motherfuckers they got into his head and then made him run into the wall. I mean, that's a brilliant horror movie death. And it stays with you. It stays with them. They're like, what is happening right now? And I love that Jonathan goes investigating and finds a fucking bottle of Glenlivet. Like, why? I don't know.
Hey, to the victor go the spoils.
Why do you think the boxes in this film scream? Like every box that is opened in Hominoptera screams.
Curse?
I guess.
I don't know.
I'll take
I don't
it.
know. Fucking whenever the Book of the Dead is opened up, it's like you get that ominous gush of wind, and you're like, that doesn't happen often around. Like, what?
Oh, how come there's pressurized acid in the Book of the Dead statue, but not in the Book of Amun-Ra statue?
I got nothing.
I don't know. I think they were right. They were getting to the end. They didn't have time for that. So after all this shit, they find the Book of the Dead after some diggers get melted. That was pretty freaky. They find the book, and the Egyptologist is like, oh my God, it does exist. So dramatic. And I love the Americans are like, well, who gives a good goddamn about a book?
Yeah.
Where the hell is the treasure?
My boy, this is treasure.
Oh, man. All these Southerners, like every American's from goddamn Texas.
Well, yeah, duh. Just like 70% of the people I've met in the Navy from Texas. Just blows my mind. I'm like, what?
They bring back Imhotep by accident. Takes a really quick one little sentence from the book, and he's screaming, which is interesting because in the second movie, they needed a whole big ceremony, and they needed to read like the whole damn book to bring Imhotep back. I don't know. I don't make the rules, but I would be better at it if I was. I find it interesting that Imhotep can see perfectly after ripping the eyes out of a man with the worst vision in the camp. I don't know.
The power of the mummy. Who knows?
The power of the mummy couldn't conjure up his old eyes.
No, because those were taken from him in the jars. So, power of the mummy can correct vision.
Okay,
sure.
I'll take it.
Hey man, I'm spitballing.
That scene with Burns in the hallway though is pretty freaky.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Because at that point, if it's your first time, you still don't entirely know what we're dealing with here, and the buildup in that scene is so good. Just seeing the vague outline of Imhotep, knowing, I used to have, before I had LASIK, I had really, really bad vision. So that was a legit fear of mine, losing my glasses and not being able to see. So I connected to that big time. And it's just,
oh yeah. I mean, I'm nearsighted, so I can't see far away, and I'd be fucked if I was in that situation.
Horror movies, a big part of why I decided to get LASIK, just in case anything does happen. I want to see it.
In case I get stranded with my buddies out in the backwoods of Texas, I want to know who's coming after me with the chainsaw.
Yeah. If I get, if I'm driving through Arizona and I hit a cactus on the back, in the middle of nowhere, and my glasses fly off and break, I'm fucked. I'm stuck in Arizona. No idea where I am. No landmarks. Can't see shit. LASIK, I'm still stranded, but I can see. And that's a plus. I had this legit thought process when I was going to sign up for LASIK. This is what I thought about. Like, yeah, I don't want to end up stuck in the desert, no glasses. Oh, I love it. So after they get back to the fort and they're all kind of just like, I guess we're leaving, gonna leave. Their whole plan was, it's Egypt's problem.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was go back to America.
Yeah. Rick's like, not my department. I did my job. I took you there. I brought you back. I'm out.
I love it. It's such a douchey thing to say, but I love when he's just like, we? What we? You did this. There's that we again.
Yeah.
It's great. Imhotep goes after her, but then, the cat and all that. And I wonder, knowing that the only thing this monster's afraid of is cats, why don't they have cats with them all the time? Just keep a cat. Keep a cat with the gang. That's all you got to do. Imhotep's not coming near you.
This is true. And I'm almost sure there's at least one crazy cat lady in Egypt somewhere.
Yeah. There's
Gotta
cats in every country. You'll find cats.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Would have been awesome if they had a scene where they like lured Imhotep to a zoo and just had like a tiger pounce on him.
That would have been kind of funny. Just watch him like fart dust because he's so scared.
Just freaks out.
Yeah.
The tiger starts like pawing at the sand.
Using it for litter.
Jesus Christ. Just pisses on Imhotep.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
Oh, I love it. I do love that scene at Hamunaptra when Benny is trying to convince Imhotep that he's cool by going through all of his various religion. I love that, especially when he starts saying mock Chinese.
Yeah, it's perfect. It just shows it's a great way of showing just how desperate and sniveling he is and how far he will go to do whatever. And even the reasoning he gives to Rick when they meet again, he's like, better be the right hand of the devil than under his foot. And we're just like, yeah. I can't say that I had a neck full of religious charms and I one stuck that I wouldn't fucking be right where you were too, dude. So, yeah.
Yeah. I love it. Benny knowing, he's got to know a little bit about ancient Egypt. He's got to, he's had to have picked up something. The first thing he goes for is the cross and starts speaking English at Imhotep. That always makes me laugh that was his first choice.
Jackass. he would have had a better shot at like Islam or something before he would have gone there.
Does he not know what BC means? For fuck's sake. I love the sand face in the desert. It's kind of become like the face of this movie because it's on all the box art, but it's fucking awesome when Imhotep just takes control of the desert and becomes the sand. It's cool. And it does kind of interrupt the plagues. We only get like 5 of the 10 plagues, which is weird. What did we get? There was darkness, there was fire, there was locusts, there was blood, and there was boils and sores. So yeah, 5. Of course, I don't really see how you visualize the death of the firstborn son in this setting. But
yeah, I mean, that definitely would have been carrying things a little bit darker, for sure.
Yeah.
And again, really, like his whole drive is to get back to Hamunaptra anyway. So, I think they probably took the ones that they could, get the most mileage out of, and let's quickly go back to the desert because, this is where the story has to end.
True. Very true. Although I find it interesting that in part 2, when they resurrect Imhotep, there is no plagues to be found.
Well, they already did that. Why do you want to go around? Why do you want
to? Gotta follow the rules you've established.
I need the rest of my plagues. I was told there would be 10. You've only given me 5. I need 5 more plagues.
I demand satisfaction, damn it. Oh boy. So yeah, the end of the movie is pretty bitchin'. Rick goes after the mummies, takes them out with this sword that apparently does the job. And it's cool to see that Ardeth Bay, become part of the gang to take this guy out. I like the end of this film is probably my favorite part, where Jonathan, Rick, and Ardeth Bay take on Imhotep to save Evie. Just cool. It's like we're finally here.
Oh yeah. Well, I think you kind of get kind of like all sides of it. Like you get the two, pretty much like the two action hero types, and you've got like the bumbling dude who has been the fuck up the whole time. He has to make up for pretty much his fault. He's the one that started all this. Jonathan, you fuck. He got the key. He brought all this stuff he brought everybody together. I won't put all of the blame on him, because Evie did read from the book.
Yeah, and Rick did bring the key back first. I don't know. There's a lot of blame to go around here.
Damn white people. That's who's fucked up in this movie. The white people.
Damn straight. Yeah, I agree 100%. The only, person of color in this film who's like actively trying to stop this is Ardeth Bay, who already fucked up by doing nothing. And now he's trying to, I love when he runs out of gun, he runs out of ammo, and he's just like, keep digging, I got this, and runs down a corridor of mummies and just starts bashing them with a gun.
Because that's gonna do something.
I love that. I kind of wish that he hadn't come back. Like that was just his ending.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I totally forgot, because it's been so long since I've seen The Mummy Returns, that he did come back. And when he did it, I was like, did that fucker die? Oh shit, no, he didn't die. But it's funny because like I keep coming to it as kind of like a joke, but like this movie is kind of just like just going like, yeah, not my problem. Somebody else will take care of it. The desert's going to kill this guy. I'm worried about him. Nobody's ever going to find this key. Don't worry about it. Not our department. It's like everybody just passing the buck, hoping that nothing bad happens.
Even Imhotep does it when he's just like, my horde, kill them. Like he could end this right now, but he's like, I'm too powerful to be worrying about these assholes. Like even he does it.
Everybody just fucking, it's not my department anymore. I'm not worried about it. You guys go do it. Report back to me that things have been done.
I've never thought about this film like that, but that's totally true. It's fantastic. I love in the end when Jonathan just chucks the book in the fucking dirty water and then just walks away, and Evie's like, that was my life's work. Why did you do that?
Really? Remember what happened the last time you read from that thing? No.
No, that was the Book of Life. That was the good one.
Well, it's funny. It's funny that he throws that too. Greedy ass. Throws away the solid gold book.
The treasure room, like everything collapsing. Imhotep's death is pretty epic. I was going to bring something up with that. I don't remember what it was. I don't know. So when they made him mortal, I mean, what do you think would have happened if like he'd survived? Do you think Imhotep would have like tried to become immortal again, or would he have been like, I'm free of this curse, now I can try something else? Because he never really strikes me as evil at the beginning. I feel like the curse made him evil. I feel like all he wanted was the girl. He didn't care about being Pharaoh or anything. He just wanted her.
Yeah, I think that element of it kind of comes from because I don't know if you know this, George Romero was going to direct it, and he had his own version of the whole script, which played out a lot more like that, a lot more with Imhotep trying to basically exist in a world that he knows nothing about. And he winds up having a relationship with a woman in there, and kind of like that's where like a lot of that story is driven at. It's like this whole idea of, you know, being in a time that you know nothing about and trying to exist and trying to find your way in this world. um I I did think that while it was cliche a little, the whole angle between Imhotep and Anck-su-namun kind of having their love across time and all of that, and that being his motivation, um, I think it made him a little more, it gave him a little more humanity, when you could have simply just made him this evil priest that was coming back from the dead to simply take over the world. Instead, like you said, he was kind of made evil. The manner in which he was killed meant that when he came back, he was kind of like turned it evil, and that evil was like what was motivating him to get his woman back. But that also meant he could take anyone and anything out that stood in his way, which pretty much just meant that the entire world was going to get fucked up until he got what he wanted.
What would have happened when he got what he wanted? Like if Imhotep had succeeded and he resurrected Anck-su-namun, killed Evie, and like brought her back, would he have just been like, I'm like, let's go retire, like let's go live somewhere peacefully, or would he have been like, let's conquer this together?
I feel like he might have had a little bit of pent up hostility towards, you know, the people that did this to him, and you know, why not the rest of the world? I mean, at that point, you've got unlimited power. Why would you not want to go that far? Who's going to stop you at that point? He would have essentially been invulnerable.
True. One of my favorite things about the sequel is the way it invalidates their relationship. At the end of it, when Rick and Imhotep are both, you know, being crawled, like pulled into hell, and Rick's telling Evie, like, get the hell out of here, don't save me, you know, run. And Imhotep screaming at Anck-su-namun, rescue me, help me now. And she bolts. It, like the contrast of love and lust right there, and how she never really cared about him. It was just, you know, it was almost like she was bored. And he didn't realize that. It was actually really sad in part two. But it was a great way to kind of show the difference between Imhotep and Rick. And it was just weird seeing Imhotep lose the will to fight.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Last thing I really want to bring up is Benny's comeuppance. Because it's good. First off, he causes Hymenoptera to like sink into the sand, and he almost gets crushed by the giant door so many times. I get claustrophobic every time when he's like crawling like through the big square that's like right down the stairs, but right after Rick almost saves him.
Yeah.
It's so tight. It feels like he's gonna get crushed. But then just, you know, being trapped in the treasure room with thousands of scarabs and a dwindling torch. Just I laugh every time. I'm like, you get yours, you asshole.
Well, it's great because it's foreshadowed too. Like Evie tells him, people like you always get it in the end. And he's like, really?
Mm-hmm.
That happens?
My only thing, I wish that earlier in the movie, he had like burned a scarab or like flicked one away or some shit, like where he like pissed one off.
Yeah.
And then later on, they were like, he got his buddies and they're going to fuck him up.
Yeah, you are no longer protected, because that's the only reason why he didn't get it before.
Yep. Fantastic. Oh, are there any other scenes you wanted to kind of spotlight?
I mean, I think coming from me, I think a lot of the horror elements of it, they're done pretty well. And again, for a movie that's, you know, just north of 20 years old now, the effects that they used to kind of like start with the resurrection, and then how it worked all the way up into how they manifested his powers and all that stuff. It's really amazing. I mean, Industrial Light and Magic did the visual effects for this movie. Like, the people that helped make Star Wars, like fucking made this, like that is insane to me, that those people lent their talents to this, and it's essentially like it was a 20th century or almost 21st century Universal monster movie. So, that's great. I love that. And it's definitely one of those instances where I would have liked to have seen some practical applications where, Arnold Vosloo is just starting to come together and you've got those little bits. But again, CGI was all the rage back then. So some of it doesn't quite, it doesn't age well for me, but still, like you brought up, the sand effects and how they kind of made it like his identity, because every time the sand is moving, like you see part of his face through there. So yeah, it's good. I really liked those frightening, terrifying moments a lot.
I think the CGI has aged considerably better than the CGI in The Mummy Returns. I think that I don't know what they were doing in that film, but it looks bad. It's fun, but it looks so dated. At least the effects in The Mummy still look fairly decent, I think. Apart from a few, bits and pieces.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you spend almost half the budget on your visual effects, it shows. That's just like how most great horror movies from the 80s, they put their money on screen, which usually meant practical effects. So you can definitely tell when the money is spent in the right areas, what you get what you pay for.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's some Filmgazm facts. I have quite a lot. There's some really cool trivia on this film. Number one, Brendan Fraser nearly died during a scene where his character is hanged. Rachel Weisz remembered, quote, he stopped breathing and had to be resuscitated. So they actually did hang Brendan Fraser in the scene where he gets nearly executed at the prison.
Yeah, he said about that he was it was at the behest of Stephen Sommers. He was like telling him to try and sell it, and he said that he doesn't remember anything. Like he just remembers fucking coming to, and they're like, "Are you okay? You almost died." And then he was like, "Yeah, I'm done for the day."
Oh my God. See, I got from that statement that Stephen Sommers actively tried to kill him. That's what that sounds like.
He's trying to make his days, okay? He needs to get good shit on camera.
Number two.
Hitchcock says actors are cattle. You got to use them.
Yeah, definitely sounds like it. Funny how, whenever they hang somebody on film, I feel like this happens a lot. Like Back to the Future 3, this happened. Michael J. Fox was nearly hanged for real. Like, I don't know how, why do they keep just use a stunt guy? Like, why do they keep using the actual actors in these instances? That's why you have stunt guys, so you don't hang your actors. Number two, an Egyptologist was brought in to phonetically render what ancient Egyptian might have sounded like for the dialogue, because modern Egyptian, very different from ancient Egyptian, and they wanted to make it sound like, this is what they were really saying. And I admire that dedication, because it wouldn't make sense for Imhotep to come back speaking English. Number three, a cloak lent by the British costume rental company Angels and worn by an extra in this film was discovered to have in fact been made for Alec Guinness when he played Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars. It's awesome.
That's pretty cool.
Just stumbled onto Alec Guinness's spare cloak and we're like, here, wear this for a background role. Fucking awesome. Number four, Imhotep was actually the name of the architect who developed the first pyramids of ancient Egypt, most notably the pyramid of Djoser at Saqqara around 2600 BC. His ability was such that he was later said to have descended from the gods. His name actually means one who comes in peace. However, as far as anyone knows, he was not a despised villain as portrayed in the movie, much more likely revered as the architect and physician he was. That's hilarious. So they just, back in the 30s, found the name Imhotep in a textbook and were like, that sounds great for our bad guy. And they picked maybe the most decent human being who ever lived in ancient Egypt.
Way to go, Hollywood. Bravo.
Demonized him forever.
Don't do your research. It sounds good. Let's use it.
That's fantastic. Oh, number 5, and this is actually something I wanted to talk about because this has bugged me for a long time. In some scenes, characters who speak Arabic can be heard saying the same lines multiple times with different subtitles. And I always thought this was a fuck up where Oded Fehr was like, all right, I'll learn one line in Arabic, and they just put subtitles over whatever he said because he says the same line like 5 times. Turns out this is not a mistake. It's a throwback to the hero movies of old, where foreign characters would say their lines in a different language to put up the illusion that they were speaking that language. So that's cool. It's not a fuck up. It's a throwback.
Interesting. Well, what I was going to say in defense of that is Arabic is one of these languages where you, like, for example, if you greet somebody, you say good morning, like they would essentially say, you know, good morning to you. And it literally uses like the same words, just in a different order. So I could definitely see how that would be kind of confusing. And like, what are you saying? Like, no, I'm actually responding to you. So, but I mean, I actually think it's cooler that they're kind of like having a little wink and a nod to, you know, classic movies.
I thought it might have been me being insensitive and not realizing, you know, differences in language, but then I found that tidbit. I'm like, I knew I wasn't crazy. Like, that is the same line. So it felt good to find that out. Number 6, when Clive Barker was attached to the project, the film was intended to be a low-budget horror film. Barker's vision for the film was violent, with the story revolving around the head of a contemporary art museum who turns out to be a cultist trying to reanimate mummies. And yeah, I can see Clive Barker making a dark, violent movie. I mean, were the studio really surprised when they hired the guy who made Hellraiser and Candyman? Like, really?
Yeah, no, he definitely would have been leaning into the BDSM trappings from Hellraiser and that for sure.
Oh, he would have had a field day with Imhotep and Anck-su-namun's relationship.
Yeah, mummy orgies. Let's do it.
God. Number 7, the sword Imhotep takes from Pharaoh Seti I and uses to kill him is the same sword Rick finds in the Hamunaptra ceremony room and uses to kill Imhotep's priests and soldiers, and then later Imhotep himself. I never knew that, and now that's my favorite thing about this movie. What goes around fucking comes around, Imhotep.
There you go, and that echoes Evelyn's statement to Benny. Bad guys always get it in the end. It always comes back to you.
Damn Skippy. Love
like
it.
A boomerang.
So let's talk a little bit about the sequels. The film's first sequel was 2001's The Mummy Returns, which sees Rick, Evie, and their son Alex facing off against Imhotep once more, who has been resurrected by his acolytes so he can fight the powerful Scorpion King and take control of the army of the underworld. The film got its own spin-off franchise with The Scorpion King, 2002, which was Dwayne Johnson's first big screen role. Despite being a maniacal tyrant in The Mummy Returns, he's now a benevolent warrior in The Scorpion King. Fucking who cares? And it's actually a pretty decent flick if you just ignore a lot of storytelling issues and bad performances. But The Mummy Returns, I like. I think it's not as good as the first one, but it's not nearly as bad as the third one, and it does have its moments.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was going to be inevitable once The Mummy made the money that it did, that they were going to milk this cow for all, till it was shooting dust. And it definitely has at this point. Again, like I said, the best thing that's come out of that was, we got the birth of Dwayne Johnson as a action hero. So, if that's the best thing that is the legacy of that movie, then they could have done way worse. I was not a fan of the third one, and I was just kind of like, what? Chinese mummy? What? Jet Li? What? So I barely remember that movie. So that should tell you something if I really don't. So I showed you that I got the whole trilogy dirt cheap. So I'm sure at some point I'll check it out. Yeah, again, Mummy Returns fun. You just kind of gotta get past the fact that the guy that was immortal and died came back again. So I'm just like, yeah, whatever.
Came back again with
Sure.
like telekinetic powers that you never brought up in the first movie. Second one has a lot of plot holes, but it's not boring and it's fun.
Exactly.
Yeah. When I was a kid, I got a PlayStation 3 for Christmas, and I got 3 Blu-rays with that PlayStation: Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and The Mummy: Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. And that is the third sequel. It's fucking terrible. 2008 sees Rick, Evie, a 20-year-old Alex face off against a resurrected Chinese emperor who plans to revive his army and conquer the world. Jet Li and Michelle Yeoh joined the cast, with Rob Cohen directing. It was a huge bomb. It killed plans for a 4th film involving the Aztecs. I thought Jet Li as a tyrannical Chinese emperor resurrected with terracotta soldiers, I thought that was really cool. I really wanted that to be done better. I thought recasting Rachel Weisz was a terrible idea. Terrible. The whole Yeti football shit was so stupid. There was a good movie in this somewhere, and they just didn't find it.
No, and that's just when you start stretching. You could have easily taken care of Rachel Weisz not being there and just saying she died. Like, that's like one of the easiest cop outs you could go to. Whatever, or they were, divorced or something, and she's off, whatever. Like, it could have been handled a lot easier. I mean, on paper, Jet Li being a tyrannical, fucking leader with terracotta warriors, sure, I could get behind that. Can't call it a damn mummy movie though. Just call it Rick versus the Dragon King. Let's just call it that.
It reminded me of the book in you ever see Shanghai Nights?
Yeah.
Remember Roy O'Bannon versus the Mummy?
Yeah.
Oh boy. Oh yeah. So I remember hearing about in like 2009, 2010, they were going to do the Mummy 4 Rise of the Aztecs. And they were trying to get that off the ground for so long. And then eventually, after Brendan Fraser's career problems, they killed it. And I don't see it ever coming back. There was
You don't need to.
Yeah, I agree. But at the same time, the third one left such a bad taste. I would like to see a little bit of redemption. But like you said, we don't need it. There was a short-lived animated series as well. The Mummy ran for only 26 episodes, followed Rick and his family as they traveled the world hunting various monsters. It was toned down considerably since the Mummy franchise was never intended for kids. So yeah, of course, make a Saturday morning cartoon out of it. That makes sense. Rick uses a whip instead of guns, and Imhotep's backstory erases all references to adultery. Yeah, Imhotep's back too. It's just, I remember watching one episode when I was a kid because I found it like searching through channels, and I'm like, what? There's a Mummy cartoon? I love that movie. And I remember thinking, this is really bad. This has nothing to do with the Mummy. And that was when I was like 8. Ugh. Although I am probably going to, if I ever see like a complete collection, I'll buy it. Just, why not? The film was rebooted in 2017 with Tom Cruise and Sofia Boutella. This version followed a black market treasure seeker who inadvertently resurrects an ancient mummified princess named Amunet. It was intended to jumpstart a dark universe series for Netflix. I mean, not Netflix. I don't know why I said that. Universal, not Netflix. With they had Russell Crowe playing Dr. Henry Jekyll as like a Nick Fury style team liaison. It was a terrible, terrible movie, box office dud, and completely destroyed this potential franchise. So you've seen The Mummy 2017, I assume?
I haven't, and I kind of want to watch it just so I can get a full scope for how shitty it is. And I think from what you've said already, to kind of like, I read about some of the plans that Universal had for like the other movies and what they're gonna do. And I'm just like, I think one of the things that because I mentioned it right at the beginning, like you really like when these movies are done well, it's like they're in the hands of, you know, a director and a writer who've got like a specific vision for it. You know, they don't, because I mean, stylistically, Dracula is vastly different from the Mummy, and that's vastly different from the remake of the Wolfman, which is vastly different from Kenneth Branagh's Frankenstein. Like all of these things are vastly different, and then you try to like add this weird Avengers style slant to this. You just can't. There's so much to mine from these stories. I mean, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is a great way to bring up like either like conflicts in like your, you know, like you can bring up like personality disorders or anger issues, or, you know, having this dark side inside of you that, you know, you've kept hidden for so long, and it finds its way out. There's just all of these things that you can explore with these. And I think if you allowed them to live and breathe instantly and show in more subtle ways that they're all existing in the same world, I think you could have pulled that off. When you're trying to like get this weird, stupid, whatever team up movie out of it, you're barking up the wrong tree. You're following a path that these films don't need to exist on. Like you can't replicate what Marvel was doing with their own properties. Take that on a bare bones framework and think it's going to apply to, you know, movies that have been around for 100 years. It's not going to happen. Like think about what these films are and what these stories are at their essence. Allows like what Lee Wanell did with The Invisible Man. He took something that really, like, it was such a brilliant idea, such a intelligent way to bring that story into the present, not just technologically, but also thematically. And it's great. I mean, it is a direct reflection of the world is right now on so many different levels, on like how race is involved, how women are treated, you know, all of these things. It's great, and that's what it should be. You can't hope or try to pump money and throw money at something and expect for it to work. Tom Cruise is the last person that should be leading a horror franchise of any degree. Don't. The last horror movie he was ever in was what? The fucking Interview with the Vampire? How long ago was that? And I'm sorry, he was the least entertaining part of that whole movie for me.
Well, biggest thing with the Mummy, like what they were planning to do was they weren't making horror movies. They were going to turn these things into action thrillers. And no, I mean, on paper, you know, the idea of like they had Javier Bardem he was going to be Frankenstein's monster. That sounded pretty cool. Johnny Depp was going to be the Invisible Man. But I don't know about that. But the Mummy killed that. And now we've got, you know, potential with Blumhouse because they know how to handle horror. They know what they're doing. And I think Lee Winnell helming the Wolfman, that's going to be fantastic. I have no worries about that after seeing what he did with the Invisible Man. So I think they're in good hands now, finally. I think we're finally going to get good adaptations of these films that are worthy of the originals.
Yeah, I mean, and something that is aware of the legacy it's on, but also knowing that these are very malleable and you can take them, update, and not lose what these stories are at the core. I mean, the man is just asking that question, like, what would you do? If you could get away with anything and nobody could catch you, what would you do? How does that affect your mind? How does that impact you? You know, do you think you're fucking Superman and you can just get away with murder? Or are you letting those darker impulses out, and you're essentially continuing your existence as a user and making somebody else look crazy for doing it. Like, that movie was so good. Loved it so much. So happy. That's actually, other than taking my kids to see Sonic the Hedgehog, that's the last movie I saw in the theater. So I was very happy I got to see that.
My favorite thing about The Invisible Man is how crazy and controlling and evil Adrian was even before the invisibility suit showed up. Like, he was already a psychopath, and this just made him easily accessible. And that was brilliant. That movie was really something special, and I'm glad that I got to see that. So I give The Mummy a 10. It's one of my all-time favorite movies and keeps getting better every time I watch it. I know I nitpick the hell out of it, but that's what I love to do. This film is not boring. It's a firm favorite of mine. It's in my top 10. And yeah, I've got nothing but praise.
Yeah, I mean, I gave it a 9. I don't have anything wrong with it. It's always been fun anytime I've watched it. When I rewatched it a couple of nights ago for the first time in probably over a decade, like, it's still just as fun. Still just as fun. And it definitely fits the bill of like gateway horror, because it has just enough to kind of like, you know, like you're dipping your toes in, but then something funny happens, or it turns into an action movie, and it keeps you on your toes. You're not like just fully settled in for one kind of movie or another.
Yeah, and I think that was Stephen Sommers' bread and butter. He didn't want to make something too scary, but he didn't want to make something too funny either. He wanted to straddle that line. He did that a few times. And yeah, I'm very happy with the product he made. I think this is going to be impossible to top, in my opinion, no matter what they do with The Mummy in the future. And yeah, I think it was ahead of its time in the way it balanced these things and showed, like you said, that these stories are malleable. And I hope they take note. Thanks for listening, everybody. Thank you to the entire Filmgazm team, to all of you for listening to this show. We appreciate you big time. Next week is a very special episode. Back in October, we received a fan request from a listener named Nick, who asked if we would review a favorite of his from 1988 called The Beast of War. Well, next week, Austin and I are finally honoring Nick's request. A Soviet tank crew becomes separated from their patrol and are being tracked by a vengeful squad of rebels. Sounds right up our alley, and it is available on Prime Video if y'all want to watch it too. Next week, it's The Beast of War on the Filmgazm podcast. Don't miss our look into 1944's Gaslight on Oscar Sunday, and of course, another sneak preview on Monday. Until then, don't read from the Book of the Dead, and we'll see you next Wednesday.